That was the last cast I made at the Jersey Shore for that particular trip. But then we found our redemption. So day 2,
Yes.
get in the lot, not lot G, walk out to the tip of Sandy Hook, and the wind had picked up a lot overnight. But it was a west wind, west-northwest wind, so the temperature got a little bit colder. And that is the wind. And we talked a lot about the wind on our most recent trip there with Gene Quigley and Jim Frieda, but all these guys love the west wind in the fall.
West is best.
West is best because what that does, it's going to flatten out the ocean, which is nice for running the boat. But bunker come right into the wind. They swim into the wind because it makes it easier for them to filter feed. Also starts to cool off the water a little bit because it's pushing that warm surface waters offshore, and the upwelling is the cooler bottom waters that are then hitting the surface, making the stripers feed, forcing them to migrate. And we had that wind that day. And when we went out there, like you said it, the birds were pretty much, you could almost not see the New York City skyline for all the birds that were there. Thousands and thousands of seagulls dipping and eating sand
And it was
eels.
like, it almost went to the Statue of Liberty. Like, it wasn't just long, but it was just, like, out there.
We had a good morning, caught some fish, then had the bite did dry up, so it wasn't as long lived as the night before. We probably had 2 hours of fish, nothing too big. There were some nice ones caught, but the biggest I had was probably 30 inches tops.
Yeah, and that was that night prior, I'm pretty sure.
So no big ones, but some schoolies and certainly with the striper fishing up here drying up in early November, happy to get it whatever I could get.
Yeah. We got numbers, and I think that was, like, the biggest thing is, like, I mean, you go from 0 to, I think you got, like, total 8, maybe, something like that.
Yeah, it was a solid.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, regardless, going from no fish to then a bunch of fish,
it was a big
take
upgrade.
Yeah.
But we weren't done fishing yet. We left the beach because the bite had dried up. We went back we wanted to record an interview with Mike Pinto from Giglio's, talk about the fishing. And as that's happening, I got a little text from my friend Captain Rob Radloff, who's one of the sharpest fishermen I've ever fished with. He does a lot of tuna, does a lot of big stripers from the boat. I caught my biggest ever striper with Rob, but he was spending the day on the beach, and he was a little bit further south of us. And he goes, "We're catching big bass and peanut bunker down here on Meadow Lips, and there's some adult bunker." So we interview Mike, run down there, and do you remember what we saw once we got there?
It was nonstop bunker. Yeah, and they were close to shore, and it was guys lined up. Bunker were lined up on the beach. Surf casters were in the water, braving the waves, and people were catching. And so as soon as we saw that, we had to hop out of the car.
We get down there, and there was kind of a whisper down the lane because you had another lineup of fishermen, more spread out than you had on Sandy Hook. But everybody's throwing, instead of the diamond jigs, big metal lips, big pencil poppers. So I was prepared for that. So I had all my metal lips. I'm throwing the big bunker stuff. And I saw one guy fighting a fish forever, gets it onto the beach, and like you hear through the grapevine, like, oh, like so-and-so just let 48 inches. I'm like, 48, that's a 40-pound fish all day. So bigger fish there, and you're watching the peanut bunker get sprayed out of the water by the stripers, but we had just missed kind of the big frenzy of the bite.
It was like you were saying, I think, like every 30 minutes or something like that, like they would push the bait up to the beach. So we had missed that window, and then we continued to fish, and then I think we missed another window like further south.
So it's wherever, the Jersey guys are so good with their networks, for better or worse. I mean, people have mixed feelings about how much instant communication like cell phones and social media, how it can be bad for surf fishing. How can people certainly catch more fish because they have access to cell phones and can instantly communicate. So, friends of, groups of fishing friends will spread out there and they will say, okay, we've got them down at Asbury Park. Okay, well, there's nothing in Deal. So then they all head in that direction. The other thing that they do, which is pretty resourceful, is use surf cams. So a lot of towns have surf cams that they will look at, that the surfers use to see, is it worth going out? I'm not a surfer. I don't know what the surfer lingo is. Is it worth going and getting my board to shred some waves?
There's similar things at up in Erie at Elk Creek. There's the John's Campground, and I did it in high school. I did it in college when I was missing steelhead. You could see the weather conditions and the stream conditions through those like trail cams, and you could see like people catching steelhead. You could see like what if the stream was frozen over. So yeah, very similar to that, which is pretty cool.
So you can monitor them, and then what the guys look for is either can you see the bunker? If things are going really well, do you see the fish breaking? One of the more obvious signs is, are the boats close to the beach? You know, if you see all the boats in close, I mean, there's a lot of party boats there. The fish for stripers, and they will be. I mean, you could
we saw that the other day
Yeah.
when we were striper fishing and we went to the beaches. We saw those like the fleets were. I mean, you could almost think that they were going to be beached. How
casting
close they
distance
were
from shore,
Yeah.
and that creates some animosity between the boat and the surf guys. Sometimes
I'm sure.
A lot of some heated words exchanged. I mean, the boat guys probably don't care. You know, like, what do you got? Come get me. You know.
What's funny is while we were down there for our trip, you were always like, just can't get the distance, just can't get out there like just as far as you would need to catch these fish. And we were in big fish territory. We were seeing big fish getting brought up, and you were even saying like, this is the day that you want to be a boat guy. And so it's funny to see this past trip that we took and then the previous trip that we took. We've kind of been on both sides of it, and there's no happy medium. It's either you're rocking it on one end or you're rocking it on the other end.
Yeah. It's tough to be a surf guy when the fish are out of range to cast out, and that's what happened to us that day. They eventually the little bit of a blitz we caught the tail end of ended. The bunker and the bait all moved offshore. We saw some explosions.
You
in
hooked one, right?
I hooked one and dropped it on a it was a Beachmaster Junior, which is a metal lip, like a 6-inch long metal lip. And they moved out of range, and we're sitting there, and everyone we talked to was like, they're going to come back in. They're going to just wait a little bit, But then we started getting some, come on home, boys. So,
yeah, it
some
was
texts about
the texts were starting to come on in, and
Reality was coming back.
it was.
we're not just filming TV shows, and we're not just fishing. Like, we have a handful of other work that we need to do. Jimmy being an editor for the magazine, we have deadlines that we have to meet, and at the end of the day, fishing trips do have to end.
I was pushing to stay a third day. I really wanted one more morning in that zone where all the bunker and big fish were, but we didn't. But before we went, Alex decided I need to put the drone up. I'd like to get some drone footage. So we parked by the Highlands Bridge, which is not far from Giglio's. Closer to Sandy Hook than where we were finding the fish on bunker. He throws the drone up, and there were some seagulls offshore. I think you were just looking for some texture, some shots of the area.
Yeah.
What you found, what did you find?
Well, I'll give some context. So, state parks and national parks, you can't fly drones in. Even with a Part 107 license, you have to go through a permitting process that can take months to go ahead and do. So it's one of the reasons why we didn't fly the drone on Sandy Hook. And one of the things that we're always looking for to add, like you said, textures, elements to the cohesive piece of an episode is you need to get some drone footage. It's something that has come into the fold and has become prolific within video within the last 10 years or so. And it's a really cool angle. It's a bird's eye view that you just can't get. And so while I was grabbing some Sandy Hook from afar drone footage, I decided to run off beach a little bit, get into the surf, get into the swells. And as I continued to peer further and further into the distance, birds started to pop up. And as you start to see birds, there might be some fish under them. So I decided to fly on over them. And as I'm flying over them, I'm seeing quality fish. I mean, 20, 30 plus pound stripers all underneath these birds migrating south. And Jimmy, of course, is like, let me see what's over your shoulder. Let me just take a peek. And as soon as Jimmy saw that, I watched him be like, come on, Alex, just a couple more hours. Can't we stay for another day?
It was thousands upon thousands of fish, and they weren't really feeding so much as just they were kind of gathered up. They had their noses pointed south. They weren't swimming real hard. I guess they were moving a little bit, but they were out. You said there were 3 casts out.
Yeah, they were close enough to shore where you just want to touch them, but they were far enough from shore where, Jimmy, you're not going to be able to reach them. We need a boat, and we didn't have access to a boat that day.
So I have feelings about drones and fishing in general. in that I think that the footage they create is wonderful. It's a really cool perspective, but it's removed some of the mystery that fishing had, especially surf fishing. When you think of that, what I always liked about surf fishing is there's no electronics. You are just, it is your best guess of whether these fish are here. And you don't really know what they're doing, how fast they're moving, what it looks like. You build up this picture in your head, and then you see what it actually looks like, or you put the drone up and you see, oh, there's actually no fish around here for miles, or there's a ton of them just out of range, and it's going to be a very sad 5-hour ride home.
I think you looked more in your rear view than you did at the actual road heading back.
Because if they blitzed and hit the beach, we were hitting the U-turn, we were going right back.
Yep.
We saw what the bunker were like on those beaches, and knowing that there's thousands of those stripers migrating south, you know that that's going to collide and create an absolute blitz upon, like an age-old blitz that they will tell tales of, that Jimmy is like, I need to be a part
They're
of
going to
that.
be nuking on the beach.
It did, and they are telling those stories. People, it wasn't as good as 2023. 2023, I threaded the needle into like the two slowest days of the fall run, and I think Shell Karras, who's been surf fishing for 60 years, 65 years at this point, said that was the best fall. 2023 was the best fall run he'd ever experienced. So that one stings, but got out there, got my fix last year, which is good, and still felt like, I guess you can't catch them all. You got to leave something on the table.
But that's good though, because you're gonna, regardless, you're gonna go back. But I mean, like, there's added motivation there for next year.
I think Jersey is. I actually just did a podcast with Joe Cermelli about a tog trip we had off Rhode Island. He talks about how Rhode Island, the fishing there makes it tough to get excited about the tog fishing in New Jersey because the Rhode Island tog fishing is so good. I mean, but that's like the only knock you can put against the Jersey fishing. I mean, it's got incredible tuna fishing, incredible surf fishing for stripers in the fall. And, man, like, there is nowhere I'd rather be in November than New Jersey.